All right, good afternoon. Welcome. Thank you all for being here. Council members, thank you for being present. If you would, please do the roll call.
Mayor Rodham,
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem Perry,
Here.
Councilmember Caffey,
Here.
Councilmember Walker,
Here.
Councilmember Oliveris, here, Councilmember Starnes, Councilmember Melton.
Here. If you would, stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by the invocation.
You may be seated for the invocation tonight.
Thank you, Dave.
Sometimes we have to punt. Our original hope was to have a couple students from the junior high be here this evening. They weren't able to make it, and then Doris Phillips was going to kindly fill in for me, but she is under the weather. This evening's invocation will be a little bit different. We changed gears, and I was reflecting back to last Friday. We said goodbye in our community to Dr. Lucille Estelle, who many of you know is a longtime educator, author, historian, and just a good person in our community. And then Doris stepping up for me to fill in, it made me think about our seniors. And as I turn 65 later this year, I'm reflecting more on getting older. And I came across this poem. The author is unknown, but I thought it would be helpful as we think of the concept of legacy. Council members, mayor, employees, citizens, I think it's important that we always remember the concept of legacy and what kind of world we're leaving behind, and in this case, what kind of city. And then it is winter. Time moves swiftly, often catching us off guard as the year passed by. It feels like just yesterday I was young, newly married, and full of dreams, stepping into a life with hope. And yet those moments now seem like distant echoes. The years have slipped through my fingers, and here I am in what can only be called the winter of my life. How did it happen so quickly? Where did the years go? Where did my youth hide itself? I remember watching older people as I grew up, thinking their reality was far off, a distant horizon I would not reach for a very long time. But now I look in the mirror and I see an older vision of myself. My friends, too, have grown older. Their once vibrant selves now slower, grayer, but no less cherished. Everyday tasks now require effort, and to this I say amen. Getting a shower feels like an accomplishment, and naps are no longer indulgent but necessary. It feels surreal to realize that I have joined the ranks of those I once called old. As I stand in this season, I find myself reflecting on the life I've lived. There are regrets, things I wish I'd done differently, opportunities I missed. But there are also countless moments that fill me with gratitude. It's all part of the journey, the ebb and flow of a lifetime. Winter has arrived, and though I don't know how long it will last, I find comfort in knowing that this season isn't the end. There is a promise of something more, something beyond. To those who are not yet in their winter, treasure the time you have. It arrives faster than you expect. Whatever dreams linger in your heart, pursue them now. Don't wait too long. Time waits for no one. Say what needs to be said, do what needs to be done, and love fiercely those who matter most. Remember, life is a gift. The way you live it becomes your legacy to those who follow. Make it meaningful. Live fully. Laugh often. Cherish your health. It is the true wealth of life. Today is yours. Make it count. If I could ask members of our community who are here today, who are 65 or above, to please stand. I think the rest of us owe you a round of applause for what you do and what you mean in our community. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that, Councilmember Melton. That was absolutely wonderful. Moving on to citizens' communications. Do we have anyone signed up for citizens' communications?
Icicles on my head.
It's cold. So I'm going to start first with items that are not on the agenda, and I'll just call your name as you signed up on this list. So if you're prepared, I will remind you that a couple of ground rules. You have 3 minutes to speak, and we'll let you know when that 3 minutes is up. I'll just kindly wave at you. Hopefully you see that. And during citizens' communications, it's opportunity for council to listen to you and hear what you have to say. So first is Felicia Wesley, and is that Elias Green? Elias. Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. I'm Felicia Wesley. Well, I was born and raised here. I also married someone from Rockdale. And this is my dad, and my mom was Margaret Green. Many of you may know her. And this is my sister, Linnell Baker. And during the Christmas break, we came home to visit Pop, and he was telling us about this food court that was going to be built across the street from our homestead. And he was saying there was going to be a concert hall and food trucks with a concert venue, and alcohol, beer, wine, I guess hard liquor was going to be sold there. So we talked about it, and we all kind of came to an agreement that having liquor sold in a neighborhood community just didn't kind of sound right around children and the elderly. So we decided to protest it. I have protests on Facebook right now, and also I put a letter in your newspaper, and I've got some phone calls too. So I just wanted to tell you a little bit about growing up in the neighborhood with our friends, and we relished the tranquility and security. We could play freely with friends around the whole block without any worry. But this planned establishment with liquor license and a concert stage just across the street from my elderly father's home has the possibility to introduce noise, intoxication, strangers into our midst. Although it has been zoned commercial, which I guess it always has been, we don't know. This is a peaceful neighborhood which consists of elderly people, widows, and children from ages 2 to 83 years old. Regrettably, the concerned citizens here were not informed or allowed to voice their concerns or ask questions before this plan was put into place. Although I'm not familiar with the process of how the city of Rockdale conducts its business concerns to its citizens, where I live, when citizens whose lives and neighborhood are directly affected by a new road or a business, they are informed. Even if they can't stop it, they have the opportunity to voice their opinions, which I don't think that these people did. And I know my mom would not want to hear all that noise in front of her house. The activities of this park have the capability to disrupt the peace and safety of this neighborhood. It could also potentially endanger our elders and children who make up a large portion of this community. I'm pretty sure now there's nothing can be done about this. These
I'll give you 1 more minute.
courts, this food court, trailers that
Yes,
are going to
ma'am.
be put here. And we really aren't concerned about that. Where I live, we have plenty of them. But not directly in our neighborhoods, and they don't sell alcohol. If you want alcohol, you have to go out to that or go to a designated area. Paul
Yeah,
also wanted to talk to that point.
I really don't care about the food trucks being in there. You know, I don't mind that, but the liquor's what I'm concerned about. That's all I have, you know, on the liquor deal. Because I know everybody gotta make a living, and the food trucks ain't gonna bother me.
That's how we all feel. He did receive this from the
That was some
TABC, so we did file a protest with that, just for the liquor. I mean, we're okay with food trailers.
whatever, yeah.
I understand.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Okay.
Ms. Wesley, Mr. Green. Ms. Baker, do you have anything you wanted to say? I'll give you a couple minutes if you'd like. I'm not putting you on the
No,
spot, but I
I didn't-
want you to have your opportunity to speak.
I didn't prepare anything, but I'm concerned about the alcohol and the food truck because I'm concerned about the traffic. I have a 11-year-old grandson, and when he was little, I used to take him and my two nieces would come with me, and we would go outside, and they were able to go outside and run up and down the streets, and you know, and all we had to do was just sit in our yard and watch them and stuff. That is not going to be able to be done anymore. I have a granddaughter now that I will be bringing down to his house, and she will not be able to experience that neighborhood the way my other grandson and my niece and nephew has because of this venue and liquor license that they're trying to obtain.
I've got a quick
and
question.
we
I know
just-
we don't reply back. I just got to make sure on this.
Certainly, absolutely. Go ahead.
Because there's some discrepancies going around about the location. Is this the one down 487 that's being built on the right-hand
Right.
side? Okay. Because
No,
I heard
that's
some.
not-
No.
Oh, sorry, no, I'm sorry,
Yes.
no. That's
And
what I'm
my
saying,
mom-
because some people were saying it was the one right down here, and then some were saying it was
No.
down from Showing Up and down by Mac Boys and
No,
all
it's-
that.
That's a good spot for it.
Well,
It's
once again,
908 and White Street. He lives on White Street. And the land, where they're building it, it's like where you are. And his house is like right here.
It's 300 feet
okay, so that's two.
from the venue. We'll be 300 feet.
It's less than that, actually.
Well, when we got the liquor license, that's what it says. And if it's 300 feet, you can protest. So,
All right.
for the license, we're not,
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Where my
but some people were saying
great,
it was the
great,
one down
great
here.
grandfather's buried, and it just don't seem right to me.
we're just hoping you can talk to the owner and maybe, and I actually heard that he's changed his mind and not sell hard liquor and just do beer and margaritas.
But that
I
makes you
think,
drunk too.
well, it does.
Beer be fine.
Okay, thank you, I appreciate it, thank y'all.
Beer, beer's good, beer's good.
Thank y'all. Next on the list to speak during citizens' communication is Mr. Walter Hurd. Walter? 3 minutes, Mr. Hurd.
I'm on the same topic that she was on, talking about the zoning. To me, I don't know how long it's been zoned, but I've been in the neighborhood for 45 years at least. And I noticed that your rules says when zoning is changed, and I don't know when it came like this, when zoning is changed from residential to commercial residence within the affected area the residents within the affected area should be notified typically by the local government entity responsible for zoning, such as planning commission or city council, through public notices and hearings before the change is approved. Most jurisdictions require public hearings where residents can voice feedback on proposed zoning change. Now, if it's been changed, I hope it's been changed before 45 years ago, because we hadn't heard anything at all about any rule changes. And I would like to protest the license and the entire thing because of the location of it. It's right across the street from a cemetery where people are laid to rest, and it's not far from daycare center. And from what I understand, 300 feet would be how far one can have a license from a child daycare center and a place where there's liquor sold. And from my mind, I'm looking at the daycare center, and that looks like 100 yards, which is 300 feet, same thing. So I can't understand why you would be able to locate or give a license to someone that's that close to where kids are being held, little kids, because we're living in a time now where people come into and shoot kids up, kill them, come into your house, kill your wife, you too, and your daughters and everything else. But I can't understand why we haven't been notified if there was a zoning change, so we would have opportunity to have a say about it. And that is
Thank you, Mr. Hurd. Your time is up, sir.
That sure did go by fast. Anyway.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. I noticed that
Regina Hurd?
Hello, I'm Regina Hurd, and of course, that's my husband, and I'm on the same topic because we're down the street from it, and we are concerned about the strangers that are going to be driving through, the alcohol. Also, where we live in that S-curve, we have had numerous, you're a police officer. I don't know how many people have come up in our yard and damaged our property, coming through drunk, alcohol and all that stuff. I mean, I'm not talking 4 or 5, we just had a couple about a month ago. So to me, this is really something that is a concern because I don't understand why we weren't notified. We have a representative for the east side. Why weren't we notified or anything about this vineyard coming about? So that's a concern, How did this even get started or, when did he get the permit to even start it up? So I'm just trying to understand that as well. So that's just my concern about just all of it. The alcohol, the strangers, the traffic coming through. That's my grandson. He plays, he in the neighborhood as well. So I'm concerned about that.
Ms. Hurt, could I ask you to do one thing? I'm up here.
Yeah,
Could I ask you to do one thing tomorrow? If you would mind reaching out to our city manager, Mr. Kelty, at 446-2511, or just look up the City Hall phone number and have a conversation with him, because I think that there are some erroneous opinions about the city changing zoning on that. That has never come before council, at least during my tenure as mayor. And obviously, you have some other questions and concerns that are very valid. And I would like for you and him, or whomever in your group that spoke tonight would like to be on the phone as well to have an opportunity to speak, and hopefully we can address these concerns.
you mean about it being changed from residential to commercial?
All of your concerns, the permitting, everything that you've spoke to that you're concerned about as citizens for your neighborhood. I'd like for you to have a conversation with our city manager about that. And obviously, he and I and your East Side representatives will converse as well with our city manager in regards to your concerns,
Okay.
as well as your West Side representatives. Our city's our city, right?
Right.
So we're all concerned about the well-being of all of our city.
Okay.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. All right, thank you.
Look forward to talking to you. I look forward to talking to you.
Rose Gates?
Hello, my name is Rose Gates, and I live on 908, right in that curve. And basically, my concern is the same as the people that have spoken before me. They've used the same words that I planned to say when I got up here, such as safety and security. Children play on that white street. They go out and play by themselves, and at this point, it's going to put stress on the parents. They can't turn their kids out to play without being supervised. So, and I don't want to take up any more time and be redundant, but I guess I'm going to try to speak with the city manager too, and because there is some questions as to what steps we can take going forward. Thank you.
And the best number to reach me is on my cell, at my cell, and I'll give you that number if you want to write that down. It is 512 512-760-5850. Okay?
Thank y'all, everyone who spoke on that and voiced your opinions and your concerns. We're moving on to other citizens' communications regarding items on the agenda. Timon Lachlan, in regards to item number 27 on the agenda. Timon, did you want to speak now, or did you want to speak during the agenda item?
Whenever y'all want me to.
Come on up.
Get out early.
I remind you, you have a good old 3 minutes, Timon.
Is it only 3? Oh, wow. Wait, did I fill out the wrong paper?
Thanks for that.
It's for the hot funds.
Oh, this is for your hot phones.
Yeah, I was like, hold up.
You're on the agenda. Why don't you wait and speak on the, you signed up on
3
here.
minutes, hold up.
Sorry about that.
You're only 25 agenda items away.
We're trying to get you out of here.
Rick, you're on the agenda also. Richard Henderson? Mr. Henderson, did you want to speak now or when that agenda item comes up? Whatever's convenient for you, sir. If you want to hit the microphone now, we will certainly be willing to listen to you.
What agenda item is it?
12 and 13.
Mr. Mayor, there are a couple of public hearings that are being held for those items.
Okay. Yes, just so you know, Mr. Henderson, those two items are part of a first reading tonight for a public hearing, so just letting you know that. Go ahead, sir.
Yes, sir. My name is Richard Henderson. I said 733 St. Gabriel. I've been in Rockdale approximately 30 years. I'm here tonight to speak on the rezoning of St. Gabriel Street, 915 St. Gabriel Street, and 900 block of St. Gabriel Street as far as rezoning. It is classified now as manufactured homes, and ever since I've been here, I've been wanting to see that place down there change. Here we have an opportunity to change it. And also the quality of life of the people that stayed down there over the years, in my opinion, because I'm ex-military more than anything, I've seen pretty much all of it, substandard living. Here's an opportunity for Rockdale to improve on low-income housing to help people live better in the city by rezoning this area, okay? It needs it. For the last 20-something years since I've been here, I say 20 years because I was in the military on and off, we've been talking about growth, growth, growth. Well, like I said, my point, and I'm emphasizing the point, here's the opportunity to rezone this area so you can get better housing for low income and for the elderly people in the city of Rockdale. That's all I have to say, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Henderson. Mario,
Service.
go ahead. Do you have something?
I just said thank you for your service. He said he's.
Yes, absolutely. Mario, did you want to speak now, or do you want to wait till the public hearing and one of the items on the agenda? It's up to you. You'll wait, sir? Okay, absolutely. Ms. Thompson, Linda Thompson, did you want to speak now or wait till the?
I'll wait.
You'll wait also, okay? Mary, do you want to wait also? Okay. Eddie Zapata, do you want to speak now or do you want to?
I'll just sign up for the item.
You'll wait till the agenda item comes
Yeah,
up?
I really don't have much to say. I just signed up for the item.
Okay. And the last one I have on the list, Tina, is it Schutzer? Schutzler? Schetzler, I'm sorry.
Is that the one I'm supposed to be on?
If you want to speak on the item when it comes up, it's your option, or you can speak now.
No, it's just about the building, it's not about.
It's on the agenda tonight.
Yeah, it's on
It
the
is
agenda.
on the agenda, yes,
Yeah.
ma'am. So if you want to wait, if council has any questions or thoughts, then you're
That's
welcome.
it, yeah, I'll just wait.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Okay, that does citizens' communications. I have the pleasure of recognizing a long-term city dedicated employee tonight who dedicated 30 years to the city of Rockdale as an employee, as our head of the library, head librarian, just a truly phenomenal person who does wonderful things not only for the library but the entire community, her church, and just I could sit up here and talk all night about all the positive things about Melanie Todd, but Melanie is here tonight for us and for our citizens who are here to give her her much deserved and well deserved recognition. So I have this plaque that the city has purchased for her to give to her tonight. So if you would please stand and join me in a round of applause for Miss Melanie Todd. I want to tell you, your service, not only to our city, but more important to our citizens, through what you've done at the library, and through other dedicated service to our city, is very much appreciated. And we know you're not going away.
No, I'll still be here.
Absolutely, and we thank you from the bottom of our heart for your dedication to our city.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
I appreciate the support of the city. I feel very honored to be one of 4 librarians. Leida Hairston was the first one. She started at the library upstairs at City Hall. She served the city for 23 years. We had Collie Parker, who was here for 11 years. Caroline Kibido was here 4, and then I've been here 30 plus. And I appreciate the opportunity to work with the community, and I look forward to transition at the library. It's been a wonderful 30 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Melanie.
Mayor, I'd also like to invite everybody here and everybody from the public. 4:30 on Thursday, we'll be having a open house reception welcome, and thank you for Melanie's efforts and public service for the last 30 years. So if you can come to the library on Thursday at 4:30, it'd be great.
Thank you. Okay, item 2 on the presentations is a presentation from the chair of our Planning and Zoning Commission, Mr. Doug Williams.
I'm in a traffic jam. I'm here to give you a summary of the planning and zoning of 2024. And the short version goes like this. The number of meetings held were 17, the ordinance amendments were 7, the plats were 24, and the total number of workshops held were 20. So that's a total of 47 times that we came together, and some of them were quite lengthy. And if you read the summary down there, I'm going to start with saying that you probably are going to get a reprise for 2025. We were supposed to be engaged with digesting the mid-century plan, but through personnel shortages and other full agendas that we've had, we have not been able to start working on your mid-century plan, where we're supposed to give you direction for 2025. So you're lucky. Well, you're not getting any directions from us probably this year unless something drastically changes. And then the other thing is currently we have 1 commissioner vacancy. We have 1 candidate, or one application submitted to us. We hope to get sworn in next month. whereupon you will be one chair short because we have one rolling off next month. It was supposed to be two, but not knowing if we're going to have a full quorum or not, I guess I better stay on a little while longer. So, yeah. Anyway, any questions about what we did?
I just have a question. Who's the new person coming in?
They're not sworn in yet, so.
And it'll be presented to council at the next meeting.
Yeah.
Actually,
Did
the
you
plan-
want his
The plan
name?
commission's gonna take action to interview them, and then with a recommendation to the mayor and council.
Yeah. So technically, there may be a period in there where we're two chairs short.
I would say, Doug, that please pass this on to everybody that's on that committee, that we appreciate the hard work, the countless hours. A lot of them are taking off from work to be able to do this in the middle of the day. And it's greatly needed and greatly appreciated. And y'all do a tremendous job in taking what direction we give you all and coming back to us with recommendations. So we appreciate that.
Well, you keyed up a little memory bubble for me. We probably need to have a workshop. We're probably going to need to know what council's direction for us should be
For 2025.
Yeah.
for the foreseeable future.
Fair enough.
Right now, we're very pro. We're trying to stay ahead. If you want us to cool our heels or whatever, we're just going to seek some directions. Yeah.
I've never been in favor of falling behind.
I've never known a way to get ahead, so
Maybe we can come up with a compromise.
Also, can I just say something real quick? I just want to say thank you to Doug. He helped us this December representing a special person from the North Pole, just one phone call. And again, thank you for all the work you do and what you did for our little ones in December.
Thank you, Doug.
Mr. Mayor, I would be remiss if I don't ask a question.
Yes, please do, Councilman.
And this is just based on feedback and comments, and I don't mean to be adversarial or anything, but a question has been asked of me by more than a few East Side members who would like to be a part of planning and zoning, but you schedule your meetings during weekdays when people might have work and other obligations. I've served on boards that met, but we would meet 5:30 like council does. Is there a rationale as to why that works best or has to be that way for your group?
in February, we get together and we review where we are. Anytime there is a new council person, we ask if it's convenient or they can make that meeting. As it stands right now, with the number of working people that we have, most of them, because they live in Rockdale, work in Rockdale, and they find time at that time of the day. We tried a workshop in the evening. We almost didn't have a quorum, and it went on for like 3 hours. So there are some reasons, but the main thing is that's when all the commissioners agreed to be here.
Thank you.
And without commissioners, there's no commission. So.
Thank you.
Thanks, Doug.
Councilmember Melton, that brings us to the item on the list, your presentation about a volunteer program.
First, I just wanted to say thank you to Lynn Perry. We were able to meet a couple times to flesh this out, and we talked about this at a council meeting 2 or 3 months ago, and I just felt like it was appropriate to put a little bit of meat on what we presented that night and what we're trying to do. And it's 15 or 16 slides, but they'll go really quickly, and Lynn will be able to add anything along the way, and he went over and above and provided some interesting financial budget information that would be useful to know. But as you know, very small acts can have a big impact in any community, in any family, any church, whatnot. And so that's the start of this, based on some consulting with the folks with Rockdale Earth Day. Go ahead. Make a difference is what we're trying to say by having this. Find a way to transform your community and hopefully transform lives. Definition of volunteerism, the policy or practice of volunteering, one's time or talents for charitable, educational, or other worthwhile activities, especially in one's community. We hope that there's nothing objectionable in that. Next slide. We're looking for civic-minded people who are ready to try to help make the community better, to empower their community onto better places. There are people that I've already heard who they're not excited about this. They don't plan on doing this. The great thing about this idea, this program, is if you don't want to participate, you don't have to. There's no penalties, there's nothing. And we're just looking for people who might be looking for small ways that they can make their community better. Next. One of the reasons that we're doing this is that we recognize there are a multitude of challenges and tasks which confront our community and need to be addressed. And what I'm thinking of is things that I see oftentimes on social media where people might be complaining about things. And we just have to sit back sometimes and realize that we have limited resources as a city. We have X number of public works people, and all of us who live here are aware of how many water leaks and different issues that come up that have them there. And while we always are going to strive, I think, as a council to try to get more and the best out of our public works people, there's too much. There's too much out there that can be done. And the only way that we think it can be done is if we have groups and individuals who might step up to the task. Next. That's what I was just trying to say. Staffing and time limitations impact how much we're able to do. The opportunities that we were thinking when Lynn and I talked were everything from litter pickup to projects at some of our city parks, assisting elderly and disabled population. I'm sure that there are times where maybe someone could help get someone to a grocery store or do something in those off hours where the hop isn't operating or things like that. Helping maybe with the homeless population. A big one that's kind of a sore spot for me is that TxDOT, when they did this project down Cameron Avenue, they gifted us with these really nice planters. And ever since those planters have been there, except there originally when there were some things in there, about the only thing you see growing out of any of them are some 2- and 3-foot peace poles. Nothing is in there, and no one at TxDOT is going to be coming around and making sure that things are planted in that. So Lynn mentioned we have a horticulture club at the high school. Perhaps they would be something. The master gardeners, what are some groups or people that we could plug in? Helping at the library, the senior center, the Mark, and then all the many properties that you see around town where the yard and the property just really seems substandard, sometimes just trashed out. Well, maybe if this elderly household or someone had someone who might help, we could put together a team of people like we've done through the years with Rockdale Earth Day when all the students and other community members come up to pick up litter. Next. Potential sources, some of these are already up and doing many great things. Rotary, Lions Club, Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts, church congregations, local businesses. Our ISD students is probably our most rich source for volunteerism. People who might be required to do community service, maybe we can plug in with some of them. And then just you and I, civically minded residents. Next. The coordination, we do believe that this coordination does need to be handled by a staff member here at City Hall, and we know from talking to Tim that they all have more things that they could do than their time allows, but we're going to push for this. And then Lynn, how about if I turn it over to you for what you were sharing with some financial information?
Yeah, what you see in front of you all is several examples of if we were to pay an employee, what it takes on a return of our investment out of number of volunteers to pay that employee's money back plus some. And you'll see that as you read down the chart here, there's different scenarios of how much that employee would be paid and the equivalent to how many volunteers it takes working 8 hours to offset that cost. And what you see is it doesn't take very many people at all to double your money on what you invested into a coordinator to do that. We feel like a coordinator is necessary. If you ask somebody to volunteer to do this, they get volunteered to death. And it needs to be a part-time position, and their sole purpose is to do the coordinating and make sure that what the task at hand that was supposed to be tackled got tackled by the group of volunteers. And if you study this a little bit, there's nothing magic about it, but if you study a little bit, you'll see that it doesn't take much to get twofold, threefold, fourfold your return on your investment.
Thank you, Lynn. Next slide. Some of this is just stuff we threw on there, but there's many benefits to having this. Benefits not just for the work that gets done in the city, but there's also, I have many friends that I have today. Esme is one. I didn't know Esme until Earth Day, and she showed up with her family. She brought all her kids into the work, and so that developed a relationship. So those kind of things are a part of it. There may be ways in which people will learn practical or social skills that maybe would enhance their life, and there are studies that have been done that show that volunteering combats depression. Next. Other benefits: improving health, strengthening the community. Next. Be civically minded, make a difference, gain perspective, have fun, meet people, build a better community. Next. And this is the closing line. This Leroy Eldridge Cleaver didn't know. I've heard this phrase many, many times through the years. Didn't know who to attribute it to, but Leroy said, "If you're not a part of the solution, you're part of the problem." And I believe that to be very true. So thank you for listening. I'm happy to, with Lynn, take any questions or suggestions or comments.
One other thing that's very important to me is I grew up in a good house, but I wasn't a good kid, and I'll be the first to admit it. But something to be learned that I learned from my grandfather is I didn't throw out trash on the road because I picked up trash with my grandfather. I didn't graffiti things because I helped clean that stuff up. So there's something to be learned from kids putting sweat equity back into their community, that it goes further than just what they're doing right then. It sticks with you, and that is huge in combating the problem in the long run. So that's what's very important to me, is getting youth involved. And there's a ton of different groups out there that need community service for their college resumes, for their whatever social groups they're in. There's a lot of them that need it, and we're also, as one of the slides said or showed, we have a lot of individuals in Rockdale that owe the city money for one reason or another, for tickets that they can't seem to come up with the cash. Well, we're going to come up with something for you to do, and work it off. If you can't come up with the money, we'll give you an avenue to work some of that off. So there's a lot to be gained from this.
If I could make one recommendation for consideration from council members. Last month's meeting, Judge Vaughn spoke about the youth aversion program that he's in charge of. I think if we could join this potentially with his program, and not only with the youth aversion program, but also with, as council member Perry just referenced, the adult aversion program as well, for those that owe fines to the city and don't have the monetary funds to pay those fines. I think obviously this would be a great opportunity potentially for those citizens to repay their debt to the city. And that helps two things, in my opinion. That helps the city, and that helps them get those fines off of their record, so it helps them individually as well.
Yeah.
Any other comments or questions? Anything from our citizens who are here tonight?
And we don't have a person in mind. We're just throwing the concept out there and want to get some creative juices flowing in people's minds. And anybody that has something to offer to it, we're all ears. But we're going to be trying to push it forward.
Excellent. Thank you both for that presentation. Sincerely appreciate it. We're moving on to our consent agenda items. Council, if you see, you have items 4 through 11 on your consent agenda. Before I ask for action on the consent agenda, I'll give you the opportunity to have any additional questions or discussion in regards to those items on the consent agenda. If there are any, council, would you please raise those questions now?
I understand that we're seeing things differently this month, and so not everything that has been a part of the traditional some of them are coming later.
Yes, sir.
So what I had questions for would be coming later.
Okay. So you're,
I'm good now.
Outside of the consent agenda.
Outside of the consent agenda.
okay, fair enough. Council, I'll give you one other opportunity. Okay, I'll ask for any action on the approval of the consent agenda as written.
I'll make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as provided.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any discussion? Being no discussion, we'll vote. All in favor of said motion signify by raising your right hand. Motion passes. Moving on to our regular agenda, which is item number 12. We will now I am opening a public hearing at 6:15 PM and taking any necessary action on the first reading of an ordinance for a rezone request for a property located at 915 San Gabriel Avenue to change the zoning from M1 zoning to R3 PUD, Public Utility District zoning classification. This public hearing is open at 6:15 PM. Tim?
Yes, so there's two items actually on 12 and item number 12 and 13. 915 San Gabriel Planned Unit Development zoning change will allow for the Housing Authority to move forward with their proposed development of 72 units along San Gabriel. It's divided into two separate agenda items because part of the development is on one side of San Gabriel and part of it's on the other side. So there's two actually separate zoning areas. But there is a requirement to have a public hearing prior to that. That did go to the Plan Commission. The Plan Commission did recommend that the PUD zoning be approved, but it was subject to requiring that curb and gutter be installed along the San Gabriel. Is that correct? And then they also wanted to point out there was a little bit of concern about parking for that, but because the planned development called for how many?
It called for one space, and our code traditionally calls for two.
So, I think that the way they have it laid out in this particular drawing is not necessarily accurate, if I'm correct about that. I would probably recommend, they do have some extra parking, but not significantly more than one per unit. I would probably recommend that we at least go 1.5 per unit or 1 1/3 per unit. The Plan Commission did express some concern over the parking as it was requested in the PUD.
So,
I've got some questions. I'm trying to get,
But this, I'm sorry,
Oh, go
real
ahead.
quick, and then this development is for senior housing, so it will be restricted by the funding that they receive. So,
Councilmember Cathy.
and I don't know, this may be directed to Mario, or you may answer this. I'm trying to get my mind right on, I have to see things. The housing unit over on Cordova, do you have anything to do with that? Yes. Okay, like, what size is that, like the square footage of those homes and the parking on those? How does that relate to this one here? If you, it's up to you guys.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Mario Casares, Director for Rockdale Housing. The answer to the question is a lot smaller. Our one-bedrooms are 640.
On Cordova?
Yes.
Okay.
And the reason is for cost. We started the venture, my board members and our architect, trying to get a 9% tax credit and 4% tax credit. We did not qualify. That would have been the best way to give us money. So now we're at the USDA. It's called the 538 loan program, which we're working on now. That loan is strictly for affordable housing in rural areas. So the money's tight. Bill, do we have the plans for the square footage? It will work. It is small, but a lot of apartments in Austin and Dallas are going to smaller square.
Well, the ones, you have here is like, I guess, one quadplex is 542 square foot, 458, 458, and 542. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yes.
Okay, perfect, okay. And then how many parking does it have at that one there? Is it standard 2 or more?
Standard, we do have guest parking at the office.
Okay.
And for this project, we expect to have guest parking at the senior center. We're gonna have a center for the seniors. This is a 55 and over project.
so the parking ratio is of concern, great concern to me because the theoretical, one or two spots per, unit, or house, that the city currently has is typically based off of being able to park, one in a driveway or one in a dedicated spot and possibly another one on the street. But this street, the way this street looks like it's constructed, I don't see how you would park on this street.
I apologize, we don't have the plat.
I think if you.
You have the other one that we,
Go to the next slide. Is it
Should
on
be,
there?
yeah, the next one.
It's not on there?
yeah.
So, yeah, you're referencing this one, Mario?
Yes, that's the one.
Yes, sir.
That's one of them.
So, is it there's a great need for this, don't get me wrong on that. Is there, in y'all's grant application or the loan or whatever it is from USDA, does it have to be that quantity to meet, the loan requirements?
We have an architect. Bill, can you answer that question for us?
They don't require, they require one space, and the reason we're trying to do one space is strictly cost. They're not giving us the kind of money we would like to have, and so that's why we're restricted on parking. You can park across the street.
I guess it'd be on the east side like this right here.
There's not an established overflow parking area, is that correct? I don't see that
And
on
were
here.
you asking about the amount of units?
Yeah.
Right, that's what I
It should
thought.
be
He's
at the
referencing
If you could-
parking again, but
If you could,
less than the amount of units.
there's 72 units in there now.
If
If
we
you
could
made
do
it
less
60,
USD, we'd
does
have a
that
little bit more room
free
for
up some
parking.
space?
Is that an option?
That's really not an option.
Not an option.
Because of cost?
Yes. If y'all could help us with 1.25, I heard someone said 1.33 for parking space, that would help.
So, let me make sure that we're on the same. This public hearing today is just to change,
Zone.
not to approve the plat, it's just to change the
The
zoning
zoning.
to be able to do it.
Ben said-
Ben?
okay.
How it looks in the end is still up in the air, right? For this meeting,
Correct.
okay, for this hearing.
I have to come back for a plat.
You gotta have a public hearing, then you've got to move on the motion to follow through coming up here.
When you had said park across the street, I know that's tilted. It runs north,
North
like
and
the
south.
cul-de-sac's the north end, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so would it be the east side? Would it be, you talking about right in here? That would be
Yes.
your overflow
That sounds
parking?
right, Bill? Yes.
Is there a way,
That's not paved though, is it?
I was gonna ask you, is that paved? Could it be paved? Could there be spots put in there?
Bill,
I'm just
question
asking,
is
it grass?
there
Is it
room?
set to be grass, or is that what that would be? Because it looks like that's your borders right there, right? I know I got your hands. Your property line. That's the property line.
That's grass.
That'd be all
I have
grass in there.
another one I didn't send it.
Okay.
One of the things we're just trying to, the former city manager suggested that y'all could let us have one parking space as a way to contribute to this. That's all the money that the USDA will give us is for one parking space.
We understand, Tim, you weren't there, but the old manager did
Right,
mention that
so-
to us.
Based on the size of the units, it's likely that it will be, one occupant. I guess you could have two if you had a married couple that was there. If it ends up being 55 and older, I guess my wife and I could move in there.
I was like, nope.
One car per household.
But the fact is, in a lot of cases, you are gonna have, care workers, that are coming in, or visitors of those people. Hopefully that people will be coming to visit their parents or, and so you are gonna need more than just one per household. The 72 units, I think that, you're gonna need more than half a dozen or so extra parking spaces, I would guess.
Is, from planning and zoning, is this area a concern? You only have one way out of here, and that's right there. Is that
So they're
not a
actually,
concern?
they
The
can,
order is you're supposed to be asking the neighbors and others in the public hearing, and when we get actually to the
The-
action items, I can speak, but right now
Okay.
it's really supposed to be.
public hearing.
Okay.
And,
Anybody here to-
Ben can answer that question.
Yes, they have an exit on Smith as well. You can see it. So they can either exit on San Gabriel or they can exit on Smith going through their second parcel there.
Hey, and Mr. Mayor, Doug made a good point. This is part of the public hearing, so before we get into a lot of discussion, I probably want to hear if there's anybody here from the public to speak on
Fair enough.
these items and then get into the discussion.
I'd like to see if a couple of the board members from housing would like to say a couple words. Thank you, Mayor and Council members.
Thank you. I don't know if I could speak on this. My mom lives there on Hamilton, and she got one of the notices there. First of all, thank you all for everything you're doing. You know, I grew up right there in that neighborhood, and I believe it's definitely needed. The only concern she brought to me, as well as my brother that lives across the street, is the way Hamilton Street is currently, the one that leads to 79. So she was wondering if those roads are going to be improved in order to support the increase in traffic, because that road already is just.
where's Hamilton at from San Gabriel?
It's
It
right.
goes east and west. Okay, it goes in front of, okay.
Yeah, it's the one that takes you to 70, not 40, 47, 47.
47.
Councilmember, we don't have the funds, and that's not in our project.
So that would be something the city would have to
And
consider.
before we get, I mean, that is one where I applied for that grant just recently, to improve San Gabriel all the way down to Thrall, I believe it is. Make improvements all that length, so that would help. But I think that the side road is a private drive off of San Gabriel.
Mario, I have a question. I saw something recently on social media that's Hunter's Chase, which is also a senior facility, had openings. And so I'm curious, I know we've talked in person about how many people you guys have on a waiting list. I'm assuming not all of those are seniors. And then I'm curious as to how many of them are actually from Rockdale right now. And the reason I say that, and you know that we are brethren when it comes to many things, but I also am a little concerned just on the idea, if we were to look at all the applications that we have, what percentage of them are people that are from Rockdale, or are we creating a build it and they will come reality? And because if you do that, then oftentimes you may be bringing people who have other issues that we can't address as a community, whether that's healthcare, are they fully insured, underinsured, and so there's just a lot of things I think that need to be, I need to find more out.
In regards to this public hearing, is there any other questions and/or comments? Anything else from Mario? Yes.
Please do.
I would say over 80 to 85% of Rockdale, for the last 2.5 years, maybe 3 years, the application process has been closed. We have 150 applications.
Do you follow up with them to say, hey, have you found a place? Are you still looking?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, so all the people that's come in since then, I would say they're local, but we're not accepting applications. As far as Hunter's Chase, I don't know what their rules are, if it's only senior, it could be private investment, but under USDA, it has to be 55 and older.
And that's part of what your job is to make sure that the people that are in these units are actually qualified to be in them.
Yes, sir.
I want to add, I think in all fairness, a lot of these residents are going to be moving in. It is low income, so they are already facing health disparities and income disparities already. So I think that's to be expected.
And we are working with Central Texas Council of Governments to hopefully have the after effect if we get a waiting pool and Department of Aging can come in and help us. We have signed semi-contractors already. We'll work on that as well.
Anything else? I'll remind council that if, when this comes to action, that what you are taking, if you choose to take action on tonight, is not the specifics of the housing project, but tonight it's the first reading specifically of the rezone request for the property at 915 San Gabriel to be changed from M1 zoning to R3.
So this has to come back a second time?
Yes.
Mayor, to change to PUD, not R3.
C1,
R3 PUD.
R3 PUD, I looked down at the next item, I'm sorry.
Mayor or City Manager, if you'd let me know when in the process I can ask this question, whether it's tonight or down the road. I'm curious, as shallow as this might sound, as to the appearance, because when I go around to the academy and other towns around town, you see the low-income housing, they're not attractive. They don't help property values in those areas, whereas Hunter's Chase looks really, I think, pretty nice. And so I want to ask that question whenever that question's appropriate. If it's not tonight,
Fair enough.
I'll hold.
Sure.
Yep.
Fair
I
enough.
know it's a hearing too, but Mark, would that be, so I know y'all have one picture on here, would you have an accurate one when that time comes and say, this is the mock-up, this is what we're going with?
Yes.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, we would like to see more specific descriptions.
So I,
Is that the one there? Okay, okay,
The trees are different.
okay, all right, I see. I got you.
Ms. Ortega, did you have something to say? Yes, ma'am.
You know, the elderly population is, and there's a lot of 65, 70, 80, 80. Still healthy and still keep their yards clean. But that's a good volunteer place to go because they deserve a home.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are single. They're not gonna have families.
Yes.
And that's why the one-bedroom apartment are considered. Because most of them are elderly people that want privacy. They don't wanna be in the nursing home and they don't wanna be in Hunter's Chase. They want a home.
Yes, ma'am.
In all
I
fairness,
think it's very important that we consider them and give them the respect due to them.
no, for sure. In all fairness, I believe that looks 100 times better than a lot of the homes that are in that area.
And I think they did try, and I think maybe they're keeping, there is a shortage of rentals. But now it's got a waiting list for the last 2 or 3 years.
And just for reference, Ms. Ortega is a board member.
Right.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Ms. Ortega.
I'm part of the board too.
Yes, ma'am, yes.
Think about too, their income. A lot of these people can't afford to pay $1,000 more for just a little one-bedroom apartment. But what we're gonna be doing is going by their income. Because a lot of them are living in cars and showering in different places and just living in cars and not, because they can't afford to pay for somewhere else to stay.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tim, do you need action on this?
We do.
Yeah, so there's a public hearing, so you close the public hearing, and then there's action on the first reading of the ordinance, the rezoning ordinance. And it'll come back to council for the zoning ordinance, and then it'll come back after for the plating. But after, if there's no more comments, I know that there was a number of people at the plan commission meeting from the public that got up and spoke. But
I do have people that signed up to speak. Ms. Thompson, Ms. Ortega, you spoke. Anyone else that signed up, like Mario, did you have anything else to? Okay. Okay, so we need to take action on this first reading, Tim?
after you close the public hearing.
Yeah.
Mayor, is the public hearing still going?
At this time, yes.
I didn't see your packet, so I don't know if you got comments from the neighbors that surround it. But for your information, we had about 12 come before us for.
In favor of?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, thank you. All right, council, unless there's any objections, I'm gonna close this public hearing at 6:33 PM. We'll now take any action on this item that we need to take. I'll entertain any action on this item, council.
I will make a motion that we accept the first reading to change the classification of 915 San Gabriel from C1 zoning classification to R3 PUD zoning classification.
Just for clarification, Councilmember Perry, that's from M1 to R3.
Are you gonna include the curb requirement that the plan commission recommended?
We still on 12?
Mine says C1.
We're on 12.
Yeah, mine says C1.
Mine says C1.
Oh, this one says M1 on here.
Yeah, this is M1 too.
Okay. Ben, is it M1 or C1 on this?
M1 typo.
Okay, there you go.
Apologies.
C1?
M1.
M1, okay,
The next
thank you.
one will be C1. My apologies.
Ben, can you address, or council, can you address Tim's question regarding, Tim, ask your question again, please.
Include the requirement for curb and gutter.
Yes, as recommended by the Planning and Zoning
Okay.
Commission.
Have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any discussion? Being no discussion, we'll vote. All in favor of said motion signify by raising your right hand. Motion passes. Item 13 on the agenda, I will now open a public hearing at 6:35 PM. On item 13, take any necessary action on the first reading of an ordinance for a rezone request of the property located in the 900 block of San Gabriel Avenue to change the zoning from C1 zoning classification to R3 PUD zoning classification. Ben, do you have something for us, sir?
I only have one other comment. It's the same thing that you just saw, but on this one did by state law meet the threshold for a protest from the surrounding neighbors of 200 feet. It takes 20% to do so. About 25% have protested this rezone of this parcel, so it takes 3/4 majority to approve this one. All items are the same as on the previous zoning.
And we've been provided that as well.
You should be provided that. If you see the spreadsheet down the line in this item, I've highlighted in a red color the protest, and you can see the percentage on the right-hand side.
Just out of curiosity, one has 4 times same address, is it?
They own a lot of property in that area.
So they get more than one, I mean, you get a vote per?
Yep. Each property that's within 200 feet
Oh,
gets
they sure do,
notice.
yeah, okay.
We are required for public hearings to send notice to every property within 200 feet.
200 feet.
And they're invited to come or make comment by email or in writing prior to the meeting, and we did receive how many?
So on this one, we received 7
Seven comments?
Seven protests on this via letter that meet that threshold.
From 7 different people, or?
No, some are the same. It's in the spreadsheet. There's a property owner that owns several property in that area, and they protested, and them alone meets that threshold.
I'm not trying not to open a can up right here, but would this go back to the opening citizens communication where somebody's supposed to get, okay, gotcha, all right.
Right.
All right.
Out of those 7, you said 7 protests?
There's 7
I
protests.
understand that one or more of those people own several pieces of property. So in totality, how many different citizens or landowners?
3.
3, okay.
Been there to be 3 out of 30?
No, there wasn't that many notices that were sent. There was a total of about 15 letters sent out. And one owner owns about 5 or 6 pieces of property looking at this, and they protested.
Okay.
And did they provide anything to you?
They provided a written notice on the protest. There was concerns of how that would affect property value in that area.
Is there anything other than that in there? Okay. Well, this is first stab at it, so.
Yes, this is the first reading.
At
So
the
we're in a
second
public
reading,
hearing.
I'll make sure you get copies of that letter, all the
they here tonight?
comments.
They are not here.
You gotta close that hearing too.
Council, any other questions or comments during this public hearing?
Oh, somebody's here. No, well, they're not.
Being none, I'll close this public hearing at 6:38 PM. Doug, was there anything you needed to provide us on this? Public hearing's closed.
Hearing portion, but it would get closed, well, Ben told me something important about those numbers.
Public hearing's closed, so.
This is the second public.
This agenda item.
It's gonna require special act, well, you've got your quorum, right?
3/4, yes.
Right. It takes 3/4 majority approval to approve this item since it hit the protest threshold.
Right, okay. Okay, council, I will entertain action on this item, first reading.
I'll make a motion that we accept the first reading of changing 900 block of San Gabriel from C1 zoning classification to R3 PUD zoning, with the recommendations, provided by the Planning and Zoning Commission.
I'll second that.
A motion and a second on the floor. Is there any discussion?
When do we talk about the one, the parking from moving it from 1 to 1.5, 1.4, 1.3, whatever, or
I
1 and a
I
third.
would recommend either making that part of the motion at the final reading, if that's what you want to do, or you could delay that for the plat. Is there, Barbara, do you have a recommendation regarding that?
Do it at the next reading.
At the next
I think
reading?
it's fair to do it at the next meeting so they know what they're
Right.
planning around.
Mm-hmm. Before they submit the plat.
Okay.
Any other discussion on said motion? Being none, we'll vote. All in favor of said motion signify by raising your right hand. Motion passes. Moving to item 14 on the agenda.
And I'm sorry, Mayor, just one real quick thing. On the final reading of that, if there are other conditions that you want to place as a council on this development, to ensure, concerns, you can always make those as part of your motion as well.
There again, that will just be for the second reading. It still has to come again for plat.
Now, that would be, yes, that would be for the planned unit development, which is where you set out those special conditions because it doesn't conform with traditional zoning.
So I do want to make sure that I covered this appropriately. I want to ensure that if I've missed any citizens that didn't have an opportunity to speak in favor of or in opposition of these two agenda items and you signed up on this, you now may speak. I think we got to everyone, but I just want to be sure. Yes, Mario.
One last comment, it's not our intent to devalue the neighborhood. It's our intent to keep it up and make that promise to the council and to the neighbors. We will keep this development up, we will not let it run down.
Thank you.
As long as I'm there, I'll try my best.
Thank you.
I'll make a footnote here. Once he applies for the USDA 528, he's under their guidelines. Because that was a question we had, so, right?
And that's guidelines into the construction and the type of construction of the property, the occupancy rates. Okay. Okay. All right, now it's 6:42 p.m. Open public hearing on agenda item 14. Conduct a public hearing and take any necessary action on the first reading of an ordinance for a rezone request for property located at 815 Houston to change the zoning from A zoning classification to M1 classification. Ben?
Hi, my name's Cole Cordy with Cordy Homes. I'm a manufactured home dealer out of the Taylor area. I was helping the Duker family submit this application just because I'm sort of familiar with this process of the zoning changes and things like that. But essentially what we have going on is a piece of property that's been in the family for, a few generations now. It hasn't been developed or built on or anything for about 40 years or so. And Sonia and her husband are coming to me to ask for help to put a manufactured home out there. And so currently it's zoned for agricultural. And I've brought kind of a preliminary survey for you guys to look at. But essentially this was this was platted kind of back in I think the 40s, and there's sort of some wonky lots and streets that we're kind of going through here, and so the idea is first to change the zoning from agricultural to M1, and then kind of do the same thing that the previous item is talking about, submit a plat at that point to help with conforming to any of the setback rules and things like that for putting a home there. And so what you're seeing is a group of lots and a group of streets, and the idea, once we get the zoning change, is to for the city to abandon that block A, block B, and then that other alleyway that's kind of there towards the west, and create a series of 2 or 3 lots there to allow for enough space to satisfy any of the setback requirements or anything like that for the home.
And so it's one home?
It's one. Yeah, just one.
And Ben, this area is allowable to put a mobile home in, or,
Not currently, but directly to the east of it, it is. And so this would not be a case of spot zoning. As Mr. Corti said, there's going to be some items that have to happen to make this a reality. The first is the zone change. If you guys approve the zone change, then this property, after the second reading, will allow the mobile home. If you look at the item that he gave you, there is an undeveloped street that runs between Houston and their property. What council would have to do is abandon a portion of that right-of-way. They would have to buy that portion of right-of-way, replat it within Houston Street, and then by code, they're required to improve Houston Street to and through their property for access.
The whole area around the development that they're proposing is not developed, that they don't own, so, but they would have to extend Houston Street down about 4 lots, 3 lots.
So this is essentially where Houston Street stops, and there is essentially an easement there that the folks in the 80s used to get back to the home that was there.
There's a platted right-of-way through there, it's just not developed.
Correct.
where's Belton?
Just south of there.
Okay.
All of this is zoned M1
I'm
currently.
having trouble understanding where
And
this
then this
is.
would be the area that we'd have to get the street developed up to, the end of that blue.
Ben, let me ask you something. So what is our current city code on manufactured homes?
So the current code is that when you apply, it has to be an area that's designated for them, or if you have a single-family zoned lot that's previously had one and it's still existing in a current use, then you can replace that unit new in the past 5 years of the application date.
So you can put one in certain areas in Rockdale, you're saying?
There are certain zoning classifications, M1 and M2 are those zoning classifications, and
And
then
this
there's
is one.
This is agriculture right now. They want to zone it to
That's what
M1
we're
to allow
changing.
for it.
Okay. Do we, council, you may have some reference to this, having been long-sitting council members, or Ben, have we had any of these similar type situations over the past few years in regards to this request, and how were those handled? Do you recall? Doug, do you recall?
Well,
This is the public hearing. I don't know if you really want to combine the action item with the public.
I
hearing.
appreciate that, Doug. Yeah, we'll wait. Thank you. Go ahead, Ben.
so in my tenure here, this is going to be a unique zoning case just because of the amount of items they're going to have to follow with it. But for M1 zoning, I've had one application in my tenure and it was not approved.
Does this family currently have any type of residence on this property?
There is a vacant piece of property. There used to
Okay.
be a home on it in the 80s or 90s, is what we learned at the Planning Commission. And they accessed the property on an unimproved right of way. Since that, they've lost that use because now it's vacant. They tore that down, and now current code requires the right of way to be improved.
And I presume you sent out notices to surrounding citizens in regard, and did you get any protest notices?
No protest. I had a couple calls, but they were in favor of it.
And so they would have to bear the cost of that improvement.
That's right.
Personally, I know Miss Sonia is a very active member in our community, so I'd like us to go ahead and make the exception and do that to support her. She's already done so much, more than people that have lived here probably longer. So if this will help her stay in our community and continue to keep her active and involved, I think that's the least we could do, in my humble opinion.
Council, any other questions or comments for this public
From the
hearing?
vote as having family.
Sir?
Being related in the family, I have to recuse myself.
Okay, understand. Thank you. I have not yet. I was asking council if they had any other questions or for this public hearing. Being none, I will close the public hearing at 6:49 PM. Doug, did you have anything you wanted to?
Well, you can ask Ben, but we cannot refuse a manufactured home. If it's a M1 designation, they can go there. And there's water.
So they have taps already. We discussed this at the Planning Commission. as Doug is saying, if it's rezoned to M1, then if they come in with a permit application for a manufactured home that meets city code of being new in the past 5 years, yes, it would be approved as long as it meets building setbacks.
There's water to there and there's electricity to there. I don't know which maps you got, but in that current right-of-way, there actually is, utilities.
Sewer tap as well.
What's that?
A sewer tap as well. City sewer runs up to their property too.
Are we incurring any cost on any of these utility improvements to do this?
If you want to.
No.
Yeah.
You can volunteer.
So I guess that,
Valid question.
and that's a no.
It's a developer's cost. It is a council's code that was adopted previously that if, it would be your discretion if you were to amend that code for them.
The recommendation from the Plan Commission was to approve have council approve this with the understanding that the property owner is aware that they will bear the costs.
And they were made aware at our meeting, so it's not something new to them now. We discussed this at Pucum, this situation.
Were they made aware, Doug, were they made aware not just of what needs to be done, but a cost estimate?
I tried to get a cost estimate and
I've asked a engineer today for a cost estimate per square foot basis, so when I receive that, I can pass that on to the homeowners, because I can give a measurement of what that would take and give you a rough cost of what the industry's running if you were to hire somebody to improve that street for you.
Ben, as a crow flies, how far is that new subdivision? To the west, is it not?
Cornerstone or?
No, the
Public Ridge.
Public Ridge.
It's to the east.
Yeah.
The
it's-
east?
Yep.
Yeah.
To the left?
No, it's to the west.
Yeah, to the west, yeah. to the
This
west.
this is one of the
And this is
furthest
to the
points
east,
east.
but I'm saying on there, it would be just a couple lots over from the pink area, correct?
So what keeps us out of the booby trap of not being spot zoning?
There is M1 zoning directly to the east. All that he is pointing to is already M1 zoning, and there is currently manufactured housing on there.
What about these?
So all of this is a previously platted property that's all zoned agriculture.
On the other side, where
Yeah, so directly south of the blue and north, it's all within a platted subdivision that was done before platting standards were implemented.
Planned or plotted. I guess that was the goal, but it never actually took action.
That's right. It's what you would call paper lots. Someone crafted lots, never put any of the infrastructure in, and then sold the lots off. You cannot do that anymore under plotting standards, but this is such an old plat. It was before the standards were implemented.
But it's a 3 in blue.
Okay. Council, any other, Ben, do you have a recommendation on this?
The Planning Commission recommends approval.
Okay. Council, any other questions?
Yep.
Go ahead.
Does that automatically mean that this one's gonna become the same thing when somebody comes back? We have no reason not to at that point, right?
Zoning is always a council discretion. There is never a case where you have to approve zoning. Now, when you approve the zoning to an M1 and someone comes in with a manufactured house, then staff will have to approve the building permit if it meets the current zoning code.
But one would-
requirement council approve the next lot next to it.
That's right.
Just because we did this one, there's no.
That'd be like discrimination.
How does that not put you right into the middle of the spot zoning? If you said you're doing this because of this, and then we tell these people no, we spot zoned.
So spot zoning is a concept where you take one piece of property and treat it differently from the rest. I will say if you approve this as a council for this individual, you'll typically approve the next one, but you're not bound by law to do so.
It conforms with the surrounding zone.
I mean, there's already manufactured homes there
Where?
He said to the.
in the front, right?
Right. But there's not here.
There's nothing there.
No, if
It's
you went out there,
agriculture.
it is
Right.
it's purely agriculture. It is grass
But
out
what
there.
I'm saying is, I'm not opposed to it, but understand that if somebody decides, I no longer want that agriculture, we have no legs to stand on to say, no, we don't want you to change that to M1.
Understandable. However, I do believe I mean, we have to have different types of level of homes in our city. We have the new subdivision, manufactured homes, and everybody's income is at a different level in their preference, so it would help diversify what we have. I mean, we need housing.
Council, any other questions?
I'm still lost. I don't know where I am.
Where's what?
Okay, any
Does
other
those look
questions,
like-
council, or comments?
Just to clarify, Ben.
Go ahead.
The ones here on the left, there's lots, but it's agriculture, correct?
That's right. Yes.
I'm sorry?
It's paper lots.
So,
Right.
yes, it's, if you went out there, you would see it open pasture essentially, but there are lots in unimproved right-of-ways and alleyways within there that you would not know unless you looked at a plat.
But that's agriculture.
It is
They're
agriculture.
platted, They can't come in and get a building permit because currently it might not meet the size standards for lots.
That's right.
It doesn't have the necessary infrastructure to the lot, so they can't get a building permit for it until such time as they replat it and they add the infrastructure, the road component.
Okay.
What do you think?
Yeah, the public hearing's closed. We're now at the point of action, unless council has any other questions or comments.
Good, I'm not sure how.
Councilman Monteveres, do you have anything else?
No, I'm good. If everybody's comfortable, I'd like to go ahead and
Okay,
make a motion.
I'll entertain action on this item.
You all good? Okay, I'd like to make a motion to accept the planning commission's approval of the first reading of line item 14 to rezone property located at 815 Houston, change the zoning from A zoning classification to M1 zoning classification.
Motion on the floor, is there a second?
I'll second that.
Have a motion and a second on the floor, is there any further discussion? Being none, we'll vote. All in favor of said motion signify by raising your right hand. Motion passes. Council member opposed?
No, I'm.
Yes, you sustain. You, yes. Have 3 in favor, 1 opposed. Motion passes on the first reading approval. Moving on to agenda item 15. At 6:57 PM, I'll now open a public hearing. Take any necessary action on the first reading of an ordinance regarding a potential zoning ordinance amendment regarding Chapter 14 zoning, Section 14.02.055, accessory structures. Ben?
If you want to. Okay.
I don't need to talk.
Okay.
I trust him.
So, at your last council meeting, we had a citizen's comment that we have a very strict accessory structure ordinance, and council directed staff to look into that, and the planning commission has also reviewed it. And so before you, I have a copy of the clean version that I've amended, and then if you'd like to see what the previous ordinance is with the new existing red line, I have that in there as well. But first, I'll point you towards the research that staff did before amending the ordinance to see what surrounding communities of similar sizes and then sizes that we expect to grow to are doing. And to make this brief, I've highlighted 2 out of the 10 that I've researched that even restrict any type of appearance at all. Most of them are silent on it. They say that you're allowed to have it to certain criteria such as sizing and building setbacks. The city of Marble Falls, in quotes, the way that they address how accessory structures look, say they shall be finished with the same material or use materials that are aesthetically compatible or complementary. And then the city of Henderson does the same thing. They say it needs to match or closely resemble and significantly complement the materials and colors used on the primary structure. So currently, our code has a laundry list of items that have to be met when you come in with an accessory structure that's above 144 square feet. And the best way to narrow that down without reading them line by line is if somebody comes in my office, their accessory structure is going to have to match their house almost to the T, which is hard to do. And so staff, based on surrounding communities, has amended the ordinance. The planning commission unanimously recommended approval. We have taken out most of those lines, and we have instead added that the exterior sides and roof must be of substantially the same color or color matched with the dwelling unit. And then it has to meet setback requirements specified earlier on in that code section. You'll see other redlined items. There were some terms used that are not defined in our code. I've just switched them with terms that are defined, so if somebody does not know what it means, they can go to our definition section and have a definition on that item. And then the final item that council needs to be made aware of is most of those communities that were researched, they allow home occupations within a accessory structure. So I've added that as item number 17. I've stipulated, which repeats the section that we already have in our code talking about home occupations, is that the home must be used as a principal residency before the accessory structure can be used as a home occupation. There's no more than one allowed per property, and then the home occupation cannot be open to the public at any time. With that, I can field any questions that you have on the ordinance.
First of all, thank y'all for doing the legwork and getting the contact in the other cities. That's very good. So to be clear, somebody could have a brown house, wooden house, or brick, and they could still do a metal building as long as the brown is the same color as that.
That is the proposed ordinance. That's correct.
That's building color and trim color have to match?
That's correct.
Okay.
No, we just thought it was far reaching to say it had to have a brick facade at 144 square feet.
Yes.
And the other thing I was gonna tell you, if you heard the word occupation, that's not necessarily dwelling. It could be a home-based business. It's being there's a person within that building.
But you can live in it too.
Not by this currently. I will warn council, there's a lot of legislation going around that ADUs, accessory dwelling units, have to be allowed. I'm keeping an eye on it, so I'll let you know when that legislative session happens. But currently, we're not allowing that. This
Not
is
relative
just.
to this.
That's right.
Okay.
This is for a home occupation. Imagine a barber shop with one seat. You have clients come in as a part-time job. There's no traffic created. You have one client in a chair, and you cut his hair, and then he leaves, and then you have the next one come in.
It's relevant to the point that
Yeah, things that don't cause traffic, and they're listed. You've adopted a allowed use table a couple of years ago that specify what home occupations are allowed. That would be what's allowed within this accessory structure.
it's relevant to the fact that you're changing it to say you can occupy it and live in it if you choose to.
Not that law is.
No, if you put if you put 145.
Oh, you can live in it, yes.
45 square foot building in your backyard, your kids can live in it.
Right.
Her mother-in-law.
That's
what we're changing it to.
That's what you're allowing now. It wasn't
So,
that way previously.
yes.
That's what we're changing to.
What you're up against is really good salesmen at the affordable building place. Yeah, you can put it in Rockdale. They never even read how comprehensive it was. So back history on it was, we had a person that bought one, didn't meet code, came before y'all kicked it to us to amend it. I think we've trimmed a lot of it out of there, but we left some teeth in there.
And still no connexes, even though they match
That-
the color.
That's right. You'll see, I
saw
moved
that
it.
down there still,
I
too.
moved. I reordered it so it's easier to read. And then like I said, I've changed the definitions. But yes, connexes and storage containers are still not allowed.
Is it allowed to ask the intent of the building, the intended use of the building?
Yes, it is.
And that is?
Really a lot of eyebrows raised whenever they want any type of electrical to it, especially if they want water to it, then the intent's asked. And then if they're using the building such as a living unit, then they lose those services and then they receive code letters and they have to speak to the judge about not living in there. Because this code does not allow them to live into an accessory structure. It does not allow accessory dwelling units.
It does not allow what?
Accessory dwelling units.
And the intended use for this building is?
Mine? is
Storage?
for Storage, yeah. But I am gonna put a washer and dryer in there. I live in a 450 square foot home, so I just need washer and dryer and storage out there. That's all I'm using it for.
Any other questions, council, relative to the public hearing?
4 of them.
Being none, I'll close the public hearing at 7:04 PM. Ben, did you have anything else to provide us, or Doug? And it's recommendation of planning and zoning to accept?
It's a whole lot better than what we had. I mean, not, it's less far-reaching, it has more room, wiggle room in it than what we had.
Council, any
For
questions?
the council people that haven't been here before, did you include the history, how we got to where we are? The back history on it, somebody built a very tall RV building, and all the neighbors complained, and the past council said, y'all need to come up with an ordinance, and that's how we got to the very far-reaching ordinance that we got, was to honor what council was after, but it was really far-reaching.
Okay. Council, any questions, comments? I'll entertain any action on this item, the first reading.
I'll make a motion, we approve the first reading of an ordinance regarding a potential zoning ordinance amendment regarding Chapter 14 zoning section 14.02.055 accessory structures.
Have a motion on the floor, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Have a motion and a second on the floor, is there any discussion?
This comes next month for second reading?
Any other discussion? Being none, we'll vote. All in favor said motion signify by raising your right hand. Opposed, same, motion passes. Item 16 on the agenda, consider take any necessary action on the second reading of an ordinance amending the zoning of 629 and 633 West Cameron Avenue. Ben?
So this is the second reading for two properties, one being Mr. Cortez's for the home rebuild. And things are still moving in a positive direction, so staff would ask this to be tabled. While you have a land swap that will be later on your agenda, depending your action on that will move us forward, and we will reach out to TDHCA to see what items are needed to get this resolved, and we can get this home built.
What's your recommendation to table?
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Second reading only, right?
That's right.
Yes. Council, any questions? I'll entertain action on this recommendation, this item.
Do we need to do an action?
We need to table it, a motion to table it.
Sure.
I'm going to make a motion that we table item 16 as read.
Have a motion on the floor and a second. Councilmember Melton, was that you?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir. Have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any discussion? Being none, we'll vote. All in favor said motion signify by raising your right hand. Motion passes. Item 17, consider and take any action on a variance request submitted by Joe Cardenas for the property located at 214 East First Street, Rockdale, Texas, Milam County, Texas, regarding a building setback. Ben?
So a plat came before the Planning Commission at their last meeting, and they recommended approval. They do not have the authority to approve variance requests, and on that plat, you'll see that there is a variance request needed of 2.3 foot for the front building setback. And so they are coming to the council to ask for that to be granted, so that way this plat can be finalized. What they've done is there is an existing two lots where the home sat right in the middle of it. They're combining it into one lot so they can receive a building permit for an addition on the back of the house.
Council, any questions?
The part in the setback was already existing structure. though.
Already existing
So we're not-
structure.
We're not changing the setback for the addition.
That's right.
Council, any other questions? Being no further questions, I'll entertain action on this item.
I'll make a motion that we accept the Planning and Zoning Commission's approval for the variance request for 214 East First Street.
I have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any discussion? Being none, we'll vote. All in favor said motion signify by raising your right hand. Motion passes. Agenda item 18, consider and take any necessary action on a final plat submitted by Donald and Carolyn Cooper for property located at 730 Broadnax, Rockdale, Texas, Milam County, into Block 8, Lot 1, and Block 9, Lot 1. Ben?
So this was also a plat that was reviewed at the last Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. There were some staff comments that were made that the Planning Commission also agreed with and made that recommendation for them to be altered before approving this final plat. I'll read through them for you. They're first to the west, or I'm sorry, the east line of that property. There is a power line that's currently existing and there's no easement notated for that. So we've asked them to make sure that there's an easement and properly notate that on the plat. The second is on Block 9, Lot 1, which is the 1 acre piece to the southeast corner. There is a reference to an easement B, but since the plat is extremely hard to read, I could not locate what that was defining, so I've asked them to just define what they mean by that, and then to make it more readable on the plat. Then if you look on the western side of the property, there is a Miller Street right-of-way that appears to lose half of its right-of-way as it gets to the property, which doesn't quite make sense. So I've asked them to make sure that that's correct and properly notated if it's not correct. And then the final item is they reference this as a short form subdivision. You'll see that it's referenced as Block 9, Lot 1, and Block 8, Lot 1, which means this is the first time it's been platted, so it cannot be a short form subdivision. It has to be a final plat, which is why it's before you tonight.
So I understand that your recommendation is to table this?
Our recommendation is to approve this,
Okay.
subject to those conditions that were
Okay.
read.
When they answer those questions for you, like,
So if council were to approve this as read, then I'll reach out to the surveyor tomorrow morning and they'll work on these corrections.
And as read includes those specifics that need to be addressed? Okay. Council, any questions? Being none, I'll entertain, go ahead.
So this is one and done, right?
This is one and done.
This is a one and done.
If they meet those requirements.
That's right. If they can make those, if not, then the plat would not move forward.
But if not, and let's say they sell the property and a new owner wants to do something similar, does this action carry over to the new owner as well?
So if this plat were not to be moved forward, it would still be one tract of land, and if they sold the whole tract of land, then the new owner would come in with, if they wanted to split the lots with their new plan, and the planning
Okay.
commission and council would see it.
They are proposing actually splitting out
They're proposing to split an acre piece to sell, and then they're gonna keep the rest. And so in that, this was the first time it was platted, so they came forward with a plat. There's just some staff comments for clarification before this plat gets recorded, and this becomes officially 2 lots.
Okay,
I move that we approve line item 18 as read.
I have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second on the floor. Agenda item 18, is there any discussion?
I got one more question. Is Miller Street one of the streets that we're fighting with, trying to find the meets and bounds of all those streets and lots, and is that
Miller's the one, you're talking about,
over,
Miller runs where the old nursing home was.
oh,
across where we used to live at.
okay.
You're talking about Washington Heights.
Washington Heights, yeah, okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Any other questions, council? I have a motion and, was there a second?
Yeah.
Yeah, motion and a second on the floor. Is there any discussion? Being no discussion, we'll vote. All in favor of said motion signify by raising your right hand. Motion passes. Item 19 on the agenda, consider and take any necessary action on a variance request submitted by Jeff Zapata for property located at 701 Burleson for a building setback. Ben, and I know Eddie Zapata is here and also signed up to speak. So go ahead, Ben, and Eddie.
I was just here in support of the.
Oh, okay, I got you. All right.
So a survey was done on a sale to another owner, and they found that there was a setback issue. There's an alley that's next to their property, and so the structure currently only meets a 1.7 foot setback. And so to ease the sale, they've asked for a variance because a setback of 9 foot is traditionally required. So to bring it into compliance, they're requesting a 7.3 foot side setback for this structure that's already existing.
So can we recommend, if we recommend this, and somebody, if Jeff sells the house to Brad can now tear the house down and build back on that same, are we giving them permission to do it again?
Is the variance tied to the existing structure or
That's that's what I wanted to be
Tied to the property.
I think the motion could reflect that. couldn't it?
Yes, because
The
we
motion,
did.
if so chose, could reflect that.
You did this similar with the accessory structure on Highland, where you made the motion for this this structure only. You can have this extra one, and then if you stop the use, you have to tear it down. It could be the same as this. You could make it conditional on, as long as that structure remains, it can have the setback. But if it's torn down, then you lose it.
Does that foul anything y'all have going, Mr. Zapata?
I'm sorry?
Does that mess up anything that you all have going if we do it that way?
I'd have to ask Tony. You're the main negotiator, so.
Not to my knowledge, it have not.
I don't, yeah, from what we've heard, no.
Okay.
I'll make it whenever you're ready.
Any other questions or comments, council? I'll entertain action on this item.
I'll make a motion that we accept the variance request for 701 Burleson Street as it ties to the existing structure only. If that existing structure is removed, the setback is no longer valid.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any discussion? Eddie, Jeff?
Just support. Just support.
Okay. Tony? Anybody? Okay, fair enough. All in favor of said motion signify by raising your right hand. Motion passes. Item 20, agenda item 20, consider take any necessary action on a resolution authorizing the city manager to sign a land swap agreement between Joe and Carolyn Cortez and the city of Rockdale. Ben?
This is, I'm sorry. This resolution authorizes me to go ahead and sign that land swap agreement if we get the approval from TDHCA for the property on Pine Street for his current property on Cameron.
And does this, if council approves this request or this agenda item, I know we've discussed this, something relative to this transaction, properties for the past several council meetings, does this,
So this is, we have the other zoning request that was tabled earlier in this meeting.
correct?
So if
That'll come back if this is approved.
this is approved, then the other item could either go away or it'll come back and get denied, turned down.
I understand. Okay.
So, and this, if this is approved, then we would move forward with him building a house there, tearing the house down on Cameron.
So if this is approved by council, this solidifies it for Ms. Cortez to,
This just gives him.
To the extent
Okay.
TDHCA approves it. I still, before I can sign the contract, it is contingent upon their approval.
I'm just curious, the one on Pine Street where it's going, is that where the other one's new? They built one?
Yes,
Yes.
it's right next to that, and so to clarify what Tim's saying as well is this is a new process even for TDHCA, so we're learning as we're going, and so if there's any more items, we'll bring them back to you. But we're getting close to the end, we believe, to make this a reality for the Cortez family.
Still think it's a great
I've
program.
been working on it for a long time. Thank you.
They said, y'all wanna do what?
yes, we have.
When we were on the phone.
Okay, council, any other questions?
So typically with these programs, the only cost is the person finding a place to live, because their place gets torn down. In this case, that doesn't necessarily have to be the pattern, correct? Are they going to be staying in their current place? No.
So it's gonna follow the same guidelines, so that structure will be demolished, and they will find another place to stay in the meantime while their structure is rebuilt.
Okay.
And city will take ownership of that property where the current structure is.
If all
If
goes
this
as
all
planned.
passes.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Councilmember Melton, that answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Council, any other questions? I'll entertain action on this item.
I make a motion that we authorize the city manager to sign a land swap agreement between Joe and Carolyn Cortez and the city of Rockdale.
I'll second that.
I have a motion and a second on the floor. I think that second came from Councilmember Walker, for record. Is there any discussion? Being no discussion, we'll vote. All in favor of said motion signify by raising your right hand. Motion passes. Item 21. Consider and take any necessary action on a resolution amending the 2024-2025 budget. Tim's this you or Roxanne?
Sure, well, I'll go ahead and start out. So, like we talked about in the last meeting, and being consistent with the financial management policy that we approved earlier in the meeting, Staff is limited to spend money, to write checks only for monies that have been properly appropriated by city council in the budget. What this does is, in the budget that we adopted, there were a number of miscellaneous funds that were not included in the budget that should have been, including the Cornerstone Escrow Fund, the Enterprise Capital Improvement Fund, Police Department Special Fund, grant funds, library donations, Fireman Pension Fund, Officer of the Year Fund, FEMA Department Training Fund, FEMA Fund, Texas Water Development Board, Clean Water Fund, and the Texas Water Development Board DWSRF Fund for the water line replacement. Those are all grant programs or for projects and expenditures that we've already talked about, some of them actually with contracts approved by council, like the home program for Mr. Cortez, but they weren't actually approved in the budget. This actually puts them all in the budget. Some of them have been in the planning stages for more than a year, but this actually appropriates them in the budget so we can actually issue those funds.
So we're not changing the policy, we're adding stuff, we're adding line items to the budget.
We're adding line items to the budget from funds that are existing, and traditionally would have just been spent without council appropriation. I just am requiring, if we want to spend funds, you guys have to have.
Get all 30.
So. And there are other funds that we have out there that are I don't want to get into the weeds and complicate the matter, but for instance, like we talked about our TERS fund for the downtown TERS, that is generating revenue. Those are not budgeted yet, so we can't spend them. The funds that Councilman Melton has been raising for Fireman Memorial Park, those money have been come in, they're restricted, they can't be spent because they haven't been appropriated. And until council appropriates those funds, that's when they would be spent. So these are funds that we know that we're gonna need, like for the award of the wastewater treatment plant, or the phase 2 of the the water project that's coming up, or the home program. Those are the biggest classifications. Some of the other little ones, like the police department seizures funds, is money that the chief has jurisdiction over. It's a relatively small amount. The fireman's pension fund, obviously we have to pay the fireman's pension, but those are supposed to be appropriated by council. So it's clean. It's kind of a housekeeping item. And I will be coming back to council, just for your information, with another budget amendment that does add some projects, like the baseball diamonds, like possibly a volunteer position, and there was one other, a finance module. Yes. A couple of other small things that we're looking at, but we're not appropriated in the budget.
Okay. Council, any questions? Roxette, did you need you're just ready for any questions that may come?
Yes,
Okay,
sir.
fair enough. Council, any questions regarding this presentation from Tim and Roxanne? And Tim, we need to take action on this,
Yes, please.
and that action would be to approve the resolution of the amendment.
Yes, and I did make a mistake at the last meeting. We presented this budget amendment through a ordinance, and it actually requires a resolution. So according to our charter, as I was reviewing things, it should be approved by resolution, and so that's what we've done tonight.
Great. Council, I'll entertain action on this item.
I'll make a motion that we approve the resolution amending the 2024-2025 budget.
A motion on the floor, is there a second? I'll second that. A motion and a second on the floor, is there any discussion? Being no discussion, we'll vote. All in favor of said motion, signify by raising your right hand. Motion passes. Item 22 on the agenda, consider take any necessary action on the first reading of an ordinance, ordering and establishing procedures for a 2025 general election for one council member for the East Ward and one council member for the West Ward, and one mayor at large in the city of Rockdale. Tim, are you taking this one?
Sure. So in May, we have the election coming up. Councilwoman Olivares and Councilman Walker positions are up for the East and West Ward, and Mayor, you were appointed for 1 year, so will be up again. And after the second reading, then those applications would be available for folks to apply.
Thank you. Council, any questions?
Then they'll advertise Facebook, newspaper, how do we?
It will have to follow all of the requirements of state law regarding the election, and Shanna is up to date, make sure everything gets publicized properly. I'm sorry, actually, this Wednesday is the opening date when you can actually file.
Applications.
And how do applicants file? Come to City Hall?
Yes, they can come to City Hall, it's on the website, they can download what they need, call me.
There's a form that's available to fill out and
I'll
submit.
put the info out on Facebook on Wednesday.
Okay.
Is this a joint election with school board or,
Yes.
and anything, is there anything county or just school board and
County's
school?
not doing one, so they'll help like how they did last year, but it'll be, the school and myself running the election this year again.
If there are contested races.
Correct.
Council, any other questions? I'll entertain a motion in regards to the first reading of this.
I'll make a motion to approve, to order the general election for May 3rd, 2025.
I have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any discussion? Being no discussion, we'll vote. All in favor said motion signify by raising your right hand. Motion passes. Item 23 on the agenda, consider and take any necessary action on awarding a bid for wastewater treatment plant improvement project. Gerald?
I believe.
You didn't think we were gonna get to you, did we, Gerald? Did you, Gerald?
I just woke up, so if I missed it.
So did I. That makes two of us.
I believe that the city manager is going to request
That they do go forward.
table it.
No.
No, to go forward. Okay, excuse me. My last meeting with him, we were considering tabling it. Okay.
Discuss that while you were asleep.
I guess so. I got one of the texts, but I didn't get that one. So, we did have our bids come in, and we had 3 bidders. Caprock Construction, who, some of you have been here a while may know them. They were Bryan Construction for many years, and they merged with Caprock. This Keeley Construction out of New Braunfels, and Wharton Smith, Sugarland. Wharton Smith's a very large construction company that does this all the time. The bids were close, 2 out of 3, and 1 low bid, which was Caprock out of Bryan. I'm sure they do have some advantages of location. They won't have to be bringing people in town and staying, so there is some financial positives for them in that. But in reviewing the work that Caprock has done, as Bryan Construction, as Caprock, they've done a lot of municipal constructions for water, wastewater treatment plants, and everything appears to be in good stead for awarding them the contract. And so we're recommending, along with KPA, that we award this contract to Caprock Construction out of Bryan.
Are there, payment and performance bonds required by them? By
Always.
the city?
Yes.
Yes, they are required to provide, before any kind of contract is signed, they'll have to provide performance and payment bonds. You give a notice of award, they'll work with the engineer to make sure that all their submittals are completed, including a performance and payment bond, and then we would execute a contract before a notice to proceed is given. And
We
this
may have
is,
talked about this in the past, are we paying all this, the 8.4, or we have, some grants?
there's
This
a
all
small,
loan.
there's a small portion of it that is grant funded,
Is
and
it
the
loan?
bulk of it is loan 0%.
It's only for, yeah.
That we've already been awarded the funding for.
Okay.
It's this is all for the wastewater treatment plant upgrade, and I don't know if you want to go through everything that's being done, but it is going to, the biggest component of this is an equalization basin that will allow us to more efficiently process waste that comes in.
Are you
eliminating
interested
highs
in,
and lows.
if you're interested, I can give you a kind of a little more in-depth look at what we're gonna do.
Well, so, I just two more questions, really, it's one question.
Okay.
When is the expected start date and finish date of the project? Or they even gave us?
Yeah, so we're actually still waiting for Texas Water Development Board to give us a green light on the notice of award. And so KSA, the principal at KSA has recommended that we go ahead and make the award tonight, but make it contingent upon getting Texas Water Development Board approval. And so when the motion is made, if that can be the motion, but it would, after that.
It's an 18-month project, but probably start in April or May, so we're looking at the end of 2026, early 2027.
It's a big project.
Significant disruption to our operation, any scheduled outages that,
Oh, there's definitely gonna be some, interruptions and things that we'll have to work around, but, you know, our job is to continue to put out an effluent from the plant that meets TCEQ permit regulations.
That was a question that actually came up during the bidding process, and we delayed that while KSA made some adjustments to be able to make sure that we could continue to treat the sewage that's coming through. Then we'll have to put in some workarounds for treatment.
And this was first brought to the city of Rockdale, first approached Texas Water Development Board in 2018. So by the time this gets started, it's almost a 9-year project.
Before this is done, we'll be looking at an expansion of the plant.
Almost definitely.
Because, at least to start the planning process for that, because it is such a long process.
And if there is a motion, it needs to specify which vendor.
Yes.
And what was your recommendation?
Caprock Construction for
Caprock.
$8,633,170.
Okay.
you ready?
I'm ready.
I make a motion to award the low bid for the wastewater treatment plant project to Caprock Construction for a total bid award of $8,461,660 contingent upon the Texas Water Development Board's concurrence on the bid award.
A motion on the floor, is there a second?
I'll second it.
A motion is second on the floor, is there any discussion? All in favor of said motion signify by raising your right hand. Motion passes. Item 24, consider take any necessary action on awarding the contract for the Community Development Block Grant, Rockdale Downtown Revitalization Project, from Milam Avenue, Bell Avenue, and Ackerman Street. Gerald?
I didn't bring the tabulation sheet with me, I'm sorry, on this one.
There were 5 bidders on that. You want me to go through them?
Yes, sir, please.
We've got them here.
Yeah, we got.
Oh, you got them? Okay.
Esco and Colomers and MSC.
We are recommending to ESCO.
ESCO has recommended, the projected range for this project was $352,700 to $547,700. And the, bid came in at $455,069. So it came in under budget. ESCO, the company that, was the low bidder, is also the company that did our phase 1 water distribution project. And they did a very good job. We threw a lot of curves at them with pipes we didn't know were there and lines that they didn't know were there. And they did really well, and I think they're well suited to do this job for us.
You tell us
I
in
would
a
also
nutshell,
point
what
out
is the,
that council had asked about making sure that conduit was included in the sidewalks as they're constructed, and that is included in the bid.
is this a compliment like to the Main Street project? Sorry. Is this kind of like the Main Street project?
This is
I mean, just
actually,
on the-
these streets are off of Cameron.
Right, I know where they're at, I'm saying it's the same kind of.
It's called a downtown revitalization project. That's what this is.
Kind of like the Main Street one they're gonna do pretty soon, right?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yes.
Main Street and Bell, this is gonna be the other, okay, all right.
And it is a MDD project, CDBG.
So is ESCON the phase 1, that was the work that went out 908?
Yes, sir.
Council, any other questions?
No, but like they have some cleanup to do still.
Is the recommendation to take action on this tonight, or is there?
Yes,
Yes, sir. Award the bid.
everything's ready for council consideration.
And Tim, what did you say about the conduit? Is there a plan in place?
It
I
is,
get it.
actually, it's part of the,
Yeah, we want to have lighting, like we didn't get on downtown.
Right.
So, we've got, asked them to go back before bidding process and then put in Encore's, specifications for conduit depth and, how the spacing and everything. And they're working with Encore now to ensure that once this is put together, Encore will come back in and do like they do the rest of our street lights and put in street lights on all these that, and,
all conduit. This does include the conduit for that,
but not the electrical.
according to Encore standards.
This does include it?
It does include it.
Yes.
It's not something we're gonna have to go back and change, because the fact that we asked, at least it was directed to be bid that way, and that's what they responded to.
Okay. I understood it, that it didn't
It did
include.
not
Did not
originally.
originally, we went back and made sure that they actually did put that conduit in.
We asked you on the last meeting to.
Yes, yes, so the plans do include the conduit according to Encore standards for the installation of future lighting.
And is that something KSA is drawing?
They've already designed it, it's in the specs, that's what was bid. So this $352,000 contract includes the installation of that conduit.
And we
400.
and we specify that it specifically had to be to Encore specifications. They went to Encore, got all that, and put it into their design.
I'm just gonna ask it 10 times because
I understand
the
it was a big-
debacle
It was a debacle.
out here.
If there's any action, you can make the motion.
No debacles?
Wait, no, no. That's unfortunately impossible. You can make it contingent on what you're concerned about, I would think.
I'm fine with it as long as they got
Well,
it covered.
I can assure you that we have had numerous conversations in the last week and a half, and they do have Encore's drawing. I sent them what Encore sent us, and then they went back and double verified it and checked and have come back and said that they have. And then I called them last week and asked them to make sure that Encore not only gave us the right specifications and drawings, but that they will put the lights up once they, I have not got that part back yet, but we are planning on having Encore put lighting in, the historical type of lighting, hopefully the same as what we have right now.
Council, any action?
I'll make a recommendation that we accept the bid to SCON for $352,701 for the downtown revitalization project for Milam Avenue, Bell Avenue, and Ackerman Streets.
Could you do me one thing, please, and change the word recommendation to a motion?
What did I say?
You said make a recommendation, but I think you're wanting to make a motion.
Make a motion, yes.
So you're making okay. I have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second on the floor. Is there any discussion? Being none, we'll vote. All in favor of said motion signify by raise your right hand. Motion passes. Item 25.
Let me say something, Gerald.
Go
When
ahead.
they mobilize, there's something I would like for them to still address on 908.
Sure.
They can wait till they mobilize on this one, but there's just an issue that still needs to be addressed out there.
Okay.
Item 25 on the agenda, consider and take any necessary action, award control cabinet purchase at the water treatment plant for $107,000. Gerald,
The control cabinet, I think you have a picture there of what is now running our water treatment plant on Mill Street. It is a convoluted set of wiring that only Jeff Zapata knows what it is doing. And he has taken years and years to keep that plant running. We've done a lot of work with Post Oak Savannah in upgrading our filtration system, our valving and all that, but this is still what's running that plant out there. And we need to have it replaced. It was included in the Post Oak Savannah 2024 grant application, and We went out to Dedicated Controls, which is also two local guys that has done work for the city on a number of occasions. Their quote was $146,000, I believe. And then Jeff Zapata, who's done the majority of the work, has given us a quote for $107,000. And we're recommending that we accept Jeff's quote.
Okay. Council, any questions? I'll entertain action on item 25 on the agenda.
I make a motion we approve the quote furnished by Zapata Electric for design, build, and installation of the new WTP control cabinet for $107,000.
Motion on the floor, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion is second on the floor, is there any discussion?
I just have one question on all these convoluted wires. I mean, I'm looking at this and as a non-tech, I'm like totally lost. If something happened to Mr. Zapata, I mean, all this makes sense to
This
people
here?
in the industry? Yes, sir.
No.
No, not the way it currently is.
And that's,
It's going with him.
and the new system installed will be,
We have made arrangements with KPA Engineering to work with Mr. Zapata, once this is built and put together, to do schematics for it, so it will be able to be worked on in the future.
by anybody.
Good question, thank you. Any other questions?
It's written on the inside of his toolbox.
All in favor said motion signify by raising your right hand. Pose same sign, motion passes.
I'll zap them, get them out of here.
Item 26 on the agenda is consider and take any necessary action on revising the hotel occupancy tax hot fund guidelines, policy and guidelines. Tim, this is you.
Following prior discussion by council, Shanna and I and staff looked at the current application, and I met with Councilman Melton, and we made a number of changes to the application and the contract that would address a number of things, but it is intended to outline all specific requirements of the after-event report, specifically in regard to financial reporting, reporting on hotel stays, and it requires that the applicant that they appear in person for the application, or either appear in person or their representative appear in person, both for the report and for the request beforehand. And it also sets a limit of I changed that.
30,000.
30,000, excuse me. $30,000 is the maximum request, and each award by council would be, each recommendation for award by council would be weighed against the number of hotel stays, the event attendance, and funding available at the time. Just so you're aware, Roxanne, how much is currently budgeted? 50,000, 60,000 in this fiscal year's budget?
Sorry, say again?
How much is budgeted for grant funding by hot funds? Is it 50,000?
The next item says 50,000, so.
50,000?
You're asking the next one,
Okay.
it says 50.
Yeah, so it's 50,000 is available currently available for hot grant awards that the council might want to consider awarding.
All right, in total or for individual?
Total in the budget appropriations is the 50,000, and the maximum is 30. I think that's how much we gave the fair. Was the biggest grant. So you couldn't give two $30,000 awards, but you could give a 30 and a 10 and a couple of $5,000 awards a year, or a $2,000 award, depending upon what it was. Or we can budget additional money. It's just limited by how much we have, so.
I thought we have currently 330,000 in that fund, is that correct?
That's correct.
And so how is 50,000 like not arbitrary? Are we just trying to keep something back to always be earning interest, or?
So the whole hot fund budget is broken down between different activities. The fund receives about $150,000 a year, is that correct?
It varies year to year, but
About-
that's at the minimum.
About $150,000 a year that we receive, and so 50 of that 150 is pledged towards annual grant awards, and then there's other things that fund also will support, like a marketing position, and some other activities as well. And that doesn't include funds that the city might decide to use itself on its own initiatives. So this is the first city I've been in where cities actually awarded those grants to outside agencies. This doesn't include like potentially an annual allocation for the Chamber of Commerce, which we would do through an agreement because that's not for a specific event. Or it doesn't include, there was another organization that I think that gets an annual allocation. So this is just for specific applications to the city. And you can change that, and we can amend the budget to increase or decrease how much is available.
Throughout the year, throughout the budget cycle?
Well, thank y'all for doing this. We've talked about it for a while, and Dave, thank you for jumping in on that. The two things one I really harped on was about the attendance, them coming here, so I'm glad y'all put that in there, and hopefully y'all relay it to them. I don't know who they speak to, Shannon, or who they get the form from, maybe really iterate on that, so. Yeah, and so, which is good.
So we're providing them with a form that they need to provide to the hotels and request the hotels to fill that out. They'll have to go beforehand, pass those out, and go after their event to collect those, to document hotel stays. And then we provide them with a form for financial reporting as well.
And the second thing which I always ask for, which y'all have already done, the next item is how much have they gotten in the past, which Mr. Loughlin's here the next day already have it, what he got which that's helpful, I think, to us to know what's the history on this event in the past, what have we given, so thank y'all for doing that.
Good comments, thank you. Any other, go ahead.
So, I mean, this is great. We don't know what we don't know until we throw this out there and see what box we opened up, what Pandora's box we
There
opened.
could be hurdles that are they're not.
It's something to build off of. If at least this gives us something to work off of.
Gives them expectations.
Yeah.
Okay, council, entertain action on this item.
I'll make a motion that we accept the hotel occupancy tax fund policy guidelines as provided and recommended by staff.
A motion on the floor, is there a second?
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second on the floor, is there any discussion? Being no discussion, we'll vote. All in favor said motion signify by raising your right hand. Motion passes.
Let me ask a question before we go to the next item. So we just did this. Was Mr. Loughlin provided some heads up that this is what's gonna be expected?
He has not, we just put this together. I have met with him, but I mean, in regard to the forms, we'll make sure that he is aware of those, the tools for him to use. He is asking for reimbursement funding, and his event is not until April. So he would have time to, make sure that he's able to cross the i's.
We finished the other one up?
Yeah.
We did, okay.
Lynn just had another question.
I bet you wish you'd have went earlier. You saved 2 hours.
Okay. Lynn, Councilman Perry, that answer your question? All right, item 27 on the agenda, consider to take any necessary action on a recommendation from the city manager regarding a request submitted by Timon Loughlin for funding for the hotel occupancy tax fund for the Sunkist Music Festival. Go ahead, Timon.
How's it going?
Good.
First, I'd like to give God all the honor, glory, and praise, and thank you, Councilman and Mayor, for allowing me to come up here again and talk about the festival. But this is the second year that I've been doing this, third event. I did a concert back in February in Taylor with Jacob Stelly, a country guy. And then I've had the pleasure to work with a teammate of mine when I went up to Topeka last year to kind of be hands-on and helping out his dad and his festival. And I forget the attendance, but it was a 4-day event. So just great hands-on experience to keep on learning and bettering myself. But more about the festival, I don't know if you guys have the packets, but when I turned it into Tim over there, I know I submitted the lineup of all the artists, and one slot said TBA. That's not an artist. That's to be announced, and I filled that up, but I believe it's 5. I'm just gonna pull out the picture on my phone, and I'll be reading this from like the bottom to the top, so Saturday's header. I have David Mares, OG Tejano guy that's been singing for about 40-plus years. From San Antonio. Then I have Jenny Grace. Her band is based in Nashville, Tennessee. She actually is going to be paying for radio advertisements in Austin. I don't remember the name exactly, but from February to June, but during the time before the festival, she'll actually be having the radio station give shout outs of saying that she'll be at the Sunkissed Music Fest, April 25th and 26th. Then I have the Preachers on the radio. I don't know if I put the whole name on there, but Preachers for short. I believe they're based in Georgetown. They performed at Kalahari or whatever that resort is around Halloween time. Then I have Scott D. Taylor. He's a local guy that I don't think he lives here anymore, but guitarist, apparently, not apparently, but I've heard him play, but very talented musician with the guitar. Then I have Aaron Lamont. He came last year. He's I don't know what to classify him as, but his style of rap he can feature or have featured of multiple genres because of the sound of him. Then I have Sun. They are actually Baylor students that do like soft rock, alternate rock type. Hopefully they can get a lot of the Baylor students to come out too. New addition was Rafa last minute because his ties here to Rockdale to hopefully bring out a local crowd. Big Sean, I forget his last name, but Sean, the high schooler that sung rap last year, got him coming back out this year just to help out with his music career to see if he's for real or not. And then going to Friday night as the headers, they're more commonly known as the Jams ATX. They performed at the Ranch Wednesday night before Thanksgiving. But since that's their English cover band side, the Tejano cover band's name is called Proyecto Insomnio, and that is the two-time Latin Grammy award-winning band. Tiffany Dawn Band, they're coming from San Antonio, cover band. Really amazing singer from there. Then Samara Bradley, she was actually a fan favorite from the festival last year, and when I was pitching the festival for this year, I had a handful of locals say, "Are you bringing the girl from LA again?" I was like, "Don't worry, that was like the first one that I hit up for this festival." Deanna Wendelin is actually on the paperwork for that TBA to slot in. Another local that sings country and rock, if I'm not mistaken. Then we have Joe Frosto, local country singer from Cameron. Then lastly, the Petty Cash. That is like the sister band of the Preachers on the Radio, but they're based in, I believe, Round Rock, and travel around Austin, are pretty well known. James Webb Jr., another local guy from here that will be singing R&B, and then JJ, I don't know his real name, but JJ is what he goes by, but another local country singer from Cameron. Moving on to the advertisements, I've been mainly using Instagram, TikTok, but I don't think I'll be using that anymore because January 19th, they're talking about banning TikTok, so guess I'll just be focusing on Facebook and Instagram. Facebook, I've been posting the event page on, Rockdale Residents Need to Know, the Rockdale 2.0 thing, the Rockdale Buy, Sell, and Trade, and like 80 plus other Facebook groups that I've been sharing all this stuff to. The analytics behind that, just based off of the last 7 days on our Facebook, it's reached just off of the posts, I think 15,000 people this week alone. Instagram has 10,000 plus followers on it. I do have a YouTube account, but that won't be active until I get a photographer to come in, do some live photo shots, some videos, make a highlight tape, and then that will kick in after this event. So that's more post-event. As far as the hot funds, what I've been applying for is for the radio advertisement that is over the Cameron station, but they also have the one in Waco that I'll be using that to, I believe, Plan C is what it's called. I forget the price or whatnot, but that's about 70 advertisements per month, so 210 from the 26th of this month to April 26th. Did you have a question? No. Oh, sorry. I saw you raise your hand. That's the radio advertisement. Then I'll have banners. I want to say I have that. They just started printing today and should be available sometime next week. I want to say there's like 30 plus of them that I'll have, or 30 to be solid with that. 3 by 5 foot banners that will cover from all the vendors and sponsors that have joined up so far, coming from like Austin, Georgetown, Round Rock, Hutto, here, Cameron, Hearn, but I have a coffee place coming from Hearn, but their headquarters is in Bay City, so I don't know if they'll take that and put it in Bay City or take it to the Hearn location. I'll have either 300 or 350 shirts made for the first round, and depending on how successful those go, hopefully get another batch. But with this first batch, mainly I'll be handing them out around Waco, Austin, College Station, where I'll be doing some events to get the recognition up outside of the 50-mile radius, and then I will set aside 100 of them just for the first 100 VIP ticket holders that come in and show up first.
Simon, when you mentioned the coffee,
Yes, sir.
were local places like Perk Up and Moon Brew allowed to say we'd like to be a part of this rather than an out-of-town
So
coffee?
Rockdale, I hit up Rockdale first, then I went to Cameron, then I went to Taylor, and spread out. So Rockdale did have first dibs on all aspects, and after just it wasn't feasible for some of the places, or not in their budget, or whatever they said. I understand stuff, times are hard, or whatnot. So I just took that and then moved on to the next option. So just like with a alcohol provider, I've reached out to the Fair Association, all the bars in town, even the Cameron Beer Market, the Texas Beer Company in Taylor that I had last year. And just once I get a yes or no, well, which has been a no so far for that, but when I get a no, I just move on to the next option. So yes, Rockdale has been the first dibs. Even with the shirt, I forget his real name, but he goes by Porky on Facebook. That will be the t-shirt provider. So giving them first dibs, obviously to keep money in town, but when I don't get an answer or it's a no, I move on to the next option. Any other questions?
Any other questions for Tom? Tim, did you have a recommendation on this?
I do. I just wanted to point out that the event is a for-profit business. He's estimating 2,000 people will be in attendance, and that the event will result in 100 overnight stays. Last year, he had been awarded $6,000. He's requesting $12,500 for marketing and advertising, and based on the maximum amount we have for funding of $50,000 and some of the other stuff that we have going on, I'm recommending $5,000, and that be prorated based on the actual hotel night stays certified by local hotels in the report as compared to the 100 that are estimated, and that the funding be reimbursed to Mr. Lachlan for expenses for marketing and advertising, targeting our audiences outside of the 50-mile radius of Rockdale.
So if I understood your recommendation correctly, you're recommending a council consider a $5,000 upfront
No,
award.
no, he's only asking for award. and
12.5.
Reimbursement award. I'm recommending $5,000 reimbursement after the event.
Okay.
Let me ask you a question. You ask for 12.5?
Yeah.
Yes. Do you want the breakdown?
No.
Okay.
I want to know, I want to understand if it's on a reimbursement and everything goes the way it's supposed to, where does the 5,000 come from versus 6,000, 8,000? How did,
Right, well,
how did that come up?
the $12,005 was asked for reimbursement for marketing and advertising. The fund is only supposed to be used to target folks outside of 50 miles radius. And so that's, what I used, and it was kind of subjective, but the fact is, with the $50,000 limit in available funds for the entire year, this is the first request that we've gotten for funds from that $50,000, and so.
And so I want to be clear, 100 estimated overnight stays. So that's 50 rooms?
It's 100 rooms.
50 a night.
So,
It's not,
so is it so it's 200 stays, 200 people staying, 100 being
if it's
a
double
room
occupancy.
for double occupancy.
I don't know if that's
It
spelled
could be
out.
more, it could be less. I've been getting.
Well,
random-
it's
not
super
spelled out.
important to know.
That's a good question, because of the fact that it doesn't differentiate overnight stays to hotel rooms.
And
I think
it's
when we
super
actually
important to
do
know
that-
those things when you have to come back with all this information.
I think
And you had 100 people stay, and we said, well, that's half of what you said. That's
I
not.
would say that I would characterize those overnight stays as individuals. So if you had a hotel room with 3 people in it, that's 3 stays.
So with the application that I gotta go pick up to drop off to the hotels, is that going to further specify how many people stayed in that room? Because like I know, Mr. Milton here last month was talking about heads and beds and trying to get bodies to show up, if I'm not mistaken on what you said last month about the hot funds stuff.
Just heads and beds has always been an important thing, and to me, I'm looking at myself. When they say 100, I'm thinking 100 hotel rooms. I'm not thinking 100 people.
That's what I'm thinking.
And
It
that's
is a
what
very
I'm,
big question on the application too.
and that's 100 hotel rooms is a lot of hotel rooms.
Yeah.
That's why I want to be clear and fair about it.
I think that the total amount between the 5 active hotels that we have is,
We have the rooms.
might
In
be
theory,
50% of the rooms dedicated to this.
It's very big.
It's just a lot. That's a lot. That's a lot of room.
Right. I just want to be realistic and know what they.
I'm glad that you're asking, because we need to clarify that.
I guess to my understanding was how many people, not how many rooms. So like he said, it could be one room, but 3 or 4 people. So,
So, I think that's more realistic. I don't know that there's, on any given weekend in Rockdale, that there's even 100 rooms available.
There are. It's not, I mean, I think there's probably 200. Jim,
Available?
Do you know how many, it's
I don't, Roxanne and I were just talking about that, it's probably close to 200.
about 200 rooms in those 5 hotels.
That's what they say. I just paid out the wazoo for one.
And the application that we do have says number of rooms booked, not number of people.
that's on me then. I'm in 100 people.
So should that be brought down to 25 rooms if double beds, 4 people in a room?
I think and I appreciate these questions, because obviously there needs to be some clarity in regards to what what the want is and what the expectation is. So you don't, none of us get into a bind on what the thought and the need and the expectation is.
I mean, I even had an hour-long conversation with Lynn here, about sponsorship and then more clarification about hot funds, just so that I'm not, or mitigating messing up on it.
I guess, council, you and Tim, you have the opportunity to clarify those expectations and set the expectations tonight.
Well, so the application says 100 has 100 stays, which is different than the application which lists the number of rooms. So I guess the question would be, for Mr. Lachlan, how many rooms would he anticipate those 100 stays would represent?
Well, let me ask you a question. If this is on a reimbursement, why wouldn't we clean up the expectation and the application with the understanding that it's our intention to I can't speak for anybody. If it's our intention to award, I think it's very, very important that if we're awarding on a post-event reimbursement, that the expectation is absolutely understood to be fair to both sides. If we're not giving him $5,000 today, why don't we bring this back next month? And I'm not trying to kick the can down the road, but I don't want you coming out of pocket for $5,000 because you didn't understand what our expectation.
And it's also a multiple day event, so somebody could come in the day before and stay for 3 nights. That would count as 3 stays.
So, would it be fair to ask Tim, you and Timon to get together and figure this out? You know, what the want is, what the need is, and bring clarity to council for next. That doesn't offset your timing for your event needs, does it, Timon?
I mean, I already started paying
Okay.
for some hot
Okay.
funds and stuff, but
Okay.
it's all good.
I think these are some very valid questions and
Because
concerns.
it's gonna, should come up to the next person too.
Those questions you said that we might come across as we,
The Pandora's box we're opening up here.
between hotel stays and hotel nights. Is it valid
Okay.
question?
So,
So I guess what I'm potentially hearing, council, is maybe you want to possibly table this till next meeting?
I would propose that we table it unless it's fouling something that I'm not aware of. If it's fouling something, financial decisions, one way or another, to keep the event from being successful, then we need to act.
No.
If it's not,
I mean, I'm just
then we
going
need to.
off of last year's happening of when I would go to Barbara, or just go and bring the receipt to show proof, get reimbursed, because the whole reimbursement aspect.
That's,
But
I get that.
understand
You can
things
discuss
change.
that with Tim if council takes action like we're discussing here. What Councilman Perry's question was to you, if council votes to table this request tonight, is that gonna cause a negative consequence for your planning, preparation, and carry forth through for your event?
No, because
No, okay.
you said this isn't supposed to fund, it's supposed to help. And so that's
Correct.
all
Okay.
it's gonna do.
And I would applaud him for bringing this forward so far in advance of the event. There's too many of these that I get that are a month, exactly 30 days prior to the event, or
Right.
makes it difficult.
Okay, council, you have any other questions? Timon, do you have any other questions for council? You
So
clear
I guess
on-
just meet up with Tim at some point?
If council pursues this through a motion and approval of the
Gotcha.
motion, yes, sir.
Gotcha.
And the sooner the better, because he can kick it back out to us. We're more than likely gonna have a
Special
special
meeting.
meeting coming up, so the
I would-
sooner the better.
Okay.
Act
Yes, sir.
sooner than later.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Council, I'll table any action on this.
I'll make a motion that we table, item 27 for the, Starkist Music Festival until further detail can be ironed out with the city manager.
I have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
A second?
A motion and a second on the floor. Is there any discussion? Being none discussion, we'll vote. All in favor of said motion signify by raising your right hand. Motion passes. Thank you, council, for your diligence and hard work tonight. I do want to mention one thing. Welcome our Texas Department of Emergency Management Representative Elath? Elath. John's been here all night. Thank you for the support you provide our government, our city government, and our council. So it's definitely very important. So with that said, we will adjourn at 8:09 p.m.